I'm Peter James. I'm the Director of Career Life Transitions, and I wanted to talk to you today about coaching as a development option. Now, I've worked in mechanical engineering, I've worked in government, I've worked in a number of different roles around the place of finance sector and what have you as a consultant over the last 20 years or so. And one of the things that really stands out for me is when we promote people up through the organisation, we invariably end up with, for a period of time and maybe till termination or separation, people who are moving into leadership roles who just have not been developed in those set of skills. And it usually comes out from people who have a high level of technical skills. So we're talking about even accountants or mechanical engineers, draftsmen, you name it. Tends to be that the best we have of those people are the ones we promote into leadership roles. And we send them off to training courses and what have you, and we develop their management skills. But really, that is a body of knowledge which they may have, and they start doing things in the workplace. But the sign of true leadership is how they're being in the workplace, and that is where these gaps start to separate. So when you have someone who's in a leadership role who is looking at leading a team or looking after a team, they may be able to manage that team well, but these days people are looking to be led, not to be managed. And that is always the challenge. Now, bringing someone out of a highly technical area, they may not intrinsically have the skills to automatically drop into a leadership role. And leadership is such an interesting area. It is a way of being, and it is a way of conducting yourself, and it isn't something that you can automatically learn by going and doing an MBA or going and sitting in a classroom, because it tends to highlight some very specific behavioral traits that either engage people or don't engage people. So as people move up into the organisation, the less they use their technical skills and the more they're expected to have behavioural skills, to the point where the managing director may not, he may have a lot of technical skills, but on his day-to-day basis, he is not, on a day-to-day basis, is not using those technical skills. And it's all about his behaviour and the way he is able to engage people. So given that people come in, and certainly, I mean, I'm working with an engineer at the moment, extremely high technical skills, and is looking at bringing those skills into a meeting place, and they're not necessarily aligned with what that organisation is looking for from a leader. And they may be around gathering as much information as possible before making a decision. It may be around being very directive. It may be around engaging and interacting with peers and the leadership group. There are a whole range of things there that in his previous role he may not have used. But in a leadership role, there's an automatic expectation he will use those. So as I say, we send them off to training courses and we teach them how to manage. But if you're really looking at taking your managers to a leadership role, you need coaching. And coaching is that one-on-one development activity. Now, why is coaching different? Because it is individual. It is about one-on-one. It is about developing a relationship with your coach. It is about delving into the specific issues that people have and teaching them and coaching them how to overcome them. Coaching is about making choices, and choices is about the context. And those things cannot be covered all the way through in a training program or a management program. I kind of like to think of it as if teaching someone 100 algebraic equations and then expecting them to solve any problems without teaching the basic principles of it. If I'm taught the basic principles of algebra, I can apply those to 1,000 or 10,000 problems. If I'm taught how to solve 100 algebraic equations, when number 101 or number 105 turns up, then I have no idea how to solve that because I don't understand the fundamentals. And that's what coaching is about. Now, those fundamentals and those things that people need to develop are unique to each individual. They are not something that sits right across a board for everybody. I can't take a group, any group of given people, and say they all have the same issues in terms of their leadership style. So coaching is a very, very viable option to quickly start to pinpoint and assist your managers to move into a leadership role and to look at the blind spots that we all have, the auto responses that we roll out that have probably worked for us at some time in the past, and to a certain extent, ever diminishing, work for us moving forward. I see the screaming child in the supermarket who, going unchecked, becomes a screaming supervisor on the building site, for example. Okay, it may have worked as a child, but and to a certain extent it may even work on the building site. But I bet that there are an awful lot of people on the building site who don't appreciate that behaviour, and I'm sure that person is not in line for a promotion further up into the organisation. These are the types of things that coaches need to focus on. What are the blind spots? What are the auto responses to circumstances and what have you? And what are the choices I have to roll out? Now, anybody can change their behaviour. As long as you know what it is, you know what the triggers are that kick off that behaviour, and look at and have a range of choices of how to apply a different response given that stimuli. Stephen Covey talked about, Stephen Covey who quoted Viktor Frankl, who said, in that moment between stimuli and thought, you have an opportunity, stimuli and reaction, you have that opportunity for thought. And in that moment for thought is your freedom. So really, coaching is about trying to create that space for the individual where they have a stimuli that they may not even be aware they're getting, and a response that they may not be aware that they're providing, creating that space in there and saying, what other options do you have, and could you get a better response from that? And from better responses, you start to get change of behaviour. If someone just says change your behaviour and there's no context for it, or I don't see any feedback from it, then I'm unlikely to change my behaviour. The other thing that we really would like you to think about in terms of coaching is you need to get the organisation involved. There's a couple of areas that they need to get involved in. One is be part of setting the goals for that coaching program moving forward, and include the goals of the organisation or that department. Secondly, they need to support that person through what they're doing. They need to support them in terms of encouraging them for changing the behaviour, to be involved in the coaching. If they're looking at some individuals looking at something they want to change in terms of the way they interact in a meeting, people around them gently reminding them that that is some of the behaviour they may want to change. Because the issue is, when I'm more and more stressed, that is when I'm more likely just to retract back to my auto response behaviour. The other part of it is looking at changing the context of which someone goes back into the organisation or that department in. If I take someone out and I coach them, and the coaching is around some kind of context and procedures, processes, interactions, hierarchy, structure, things like that, that are holding people into a certain pattern of behaviour, then we would suggest looking at that and changing the context. So it starts to become not only the coach and the development of the individual as they're going through that, it starts to become how the organisation gets involved in that. Setting goals that are achievable with that individual, about supporting that individual, and possibly, if necessary, changing the context in which they're operating in. Under these circumstances, you will see dramatic changes in your managers and start to propel your management group into a leadership group. Career Life Transitions are experts at supporting your people from managers to leaders, and leaders who start to deliver outstanding results. Please give us a call. We're here to help. Thank you.